his closest friends, and then by helicopter, and I believe he may be the first former president to leave the Capitol by helicopter to Andrews Air Force Base to fly to the ranch in Texas and to retirement from this Capitol where he spent 37 years
I suppose for the last 2 or 3 days, Mr. Johnson was just living out of a suitcase. All his personal belongings and papers obviously have gone out, and he was, when he left this morning at 11:15, he was in fact leaving.
Never to go back there as the president, it is assumed. His departure, this transition of power, has been a far more graceful thing than has occurred in some past inaugurals in our recent history even. But over the last few presidents, it has gone rather well, and this luncheon has become almost a tradition. President Truman really began it when he went to Dean Acheson's house, also from the Capitol, and then left town by train. There was supposed to be no ceremony, but there's a huge crowd at the Union Station. If you remember telling...
And traditionally, they do not allow cameras or coverage of the lunch. It's a period when all of the principals can relax in what is otherwise a fairly tiring and public day. Mr. Nixon spoke for 16 and a half minutes. They said about par for inaugural addresses, and a little bit shorter than his first inaugural speech 4 years ago, which also was about par. Presidents usually have less to say on their second inaugural and doing their first, as Mr. Lincoln said in his second inaugural. In the first, you have to sort of introduce yourself and your programs and policies.
But we have no word at all, officially, that the hostages have left Iran. The United Press and the AP have both said at one time or another they have. Reuters has not confirmed that, and we certainly have no official word from anybody to that effect. There is a new Secretary of Defense from California, Casper Weinberger, who also served in the Nixon administration. But I was saying that the president faced west, and that perhaps is significant. He brings Western values of rugged individualism, rejection of government solutions, tough military posture, suspicion of social programs, all of that into this government.
His prescription for dealing with some of the nation's social ills appears to be a moral call to voluntarism, which is an old Republican idea into which I think President Bush hopes to breathe new life. He had a very nice line about it. We have more will than wallet, but will is what we need. Nice line. It'll be very interesting to see how far he can go with this proposition. It's something I think in which he really believes. That's the old 1,000 points of light idea.
Well, he's gone some step further to explaining his 1,000 points of light in terms of referring to volunteer agencies around the country. Jeff Greenfield.
This, I think, was a speech that was almost a perfect pitch speech for George Bush. As you know, it was drafted by Peggy Noonan, who wrote that magnificent acceptance speech. George Bush...
The country to get righted is going to have to make some sacrifices.
In keeping with that, Tom, he was talking about responsibility, and it was interesting to note where Bill Clinton varied from the prepared text that we were handed when he was talking about powerful people maneuvering for position in Washington and forgetting about those who sent them here. His text had been written to say whose toil and sweat sends them here and pays their way. He changed it when he delivered it to say sends us here and pays our way.
We want to remind you of what's coming up here. Of course, we still have the inaugural parade, which begins, if we stay on schedule, at about 2 Eastern Time. There will be a lunch before that and a number of ceremonies inside the Capitol. NBC's Washington Bureau Chief Moderator of Meet the Press, Tim Russert, is down there in the Capitol area as well. Tim?
Tom, as well as a governmental passage, I was witnessing a political passage here. I watched very closely the looks that Joe Biden, Dick Gebhardt, Mario Cuomo, Jesse Jackson, Bill Bradley, a whole group of Democratic senators, congressmen, governors who chose not to run this year, looking at a young 46-year-old man. Their chance of being president may be gone.
its attention to the arrival of President-elect Barack H. Obama and Vice President-elect Joseph R. Biden, Jr.